I want to show you a few different control components that will be useful, but also we're definitely going to be using them in the class, so let's get familiar with them. All right, so the first one I want to show you is custom controls. So you can go ahead and search for a custom control, or you can find it under Control Components in the right-hand tab. I'm going to drag that in temporarily for now. So here we have custom controls. If I open this up, there's nothing in it. Well, that's because essentially what custom control is a bank of sorts that you can create whatever kind of controls you need, bring them into your design, and then use them how you want to. So let's say for some reason I decide I need a bunch of toggle buttons in my design. I can bring in custom controls, I can head over to the properties, and you'll see I have group 1, the type here. If I go through here, you'll see all the different kind of controls. We can add whatever we want. I can head down here to toggle button. I can say, yeah, I think I need 3 toggle buttons. And already you can see the change in the control component here. We have 3 toggle buttons. Their control pins already exposed for us so that we can start using them, connecting them to whatever it is we need to toggle on or off. If I open it up, there they are. 3 toggle buttons. I can drag these out, use them however I need to. If I need more than just that, I can also add more. I have the option to add a second group. So I could say I need a handful of LEDs as well. I need 3 LEDs for my 3 toggle buttons. And there we have it. I have 3 LEDs now here that I can do the same with. And just like the toggle buttons, those pins are exposed. So you can go through any kind of control you need, find a custom control, grab it, use it, and that will take care of your control needs in that sense. I'm going to get rid of this for now. Don't necessarily need it at this moment. The next thing I want to take a look at is control functions. So go ahead and type in control fun. That's what I call this class anyways. And bring that in. The first thing you're going to notice is it doesn't say control functions on the component itself, which is sort of rare for most of the components in Designer. It says value sum. That can be a little confusing if you're not familiar with it. If you look up in the properties, however, you'll see the first field is function, and it says value sum. If I hit that drop down, I get a large amount of different types of functions that I can use to establish some sort of control. I have a bunch of logic functions. I have some position, so we know it's going to be using the position data. I have values, that's going to use the value data. So we're already kind of connecting to what we were just talking about there. There's a lot in here, though. Some of them you can kind of figure out what they are just from what they're called, right? Logic and. If I take a look at that, I know that what I'm getting is if the first input receives a true and the second input receives a true, then it's going to spit out a true output. So if I have 2 toggle buttons and they're both on, then it's going to send out that on state to whatever I'm trying to control with those 2 toggle buttons. Logic OR in a similar fashion, instead of if 1 is on and 2 is on, it would be if 1 is on or 2 is on, then it would send that on state or that true state through to whatever I'm trying to control. Now, there are plenty that don't make a lot of sense, at least to me. I can't remember what they are. If I look through here, there's a few. I've gone over it a number of times, but I will never remember what logic not XOR is. So if you ever have that situation where you don't really know what it is that function does, or you're looking for a function that will help you with whatever it is you're trying to create, you can jump into the help file. If I select the component, it should take me right to the section of the help file that is about that component. Here we have control functions. If I jump down to properties, I can get all of the functions here. I can get a drop down that describes exactly what everything does. There's the logic and. The output is a value of 1 if all inputs have a value of 1.
I thought that logic not XOR was the sequel to logic 9 or to logic 2 furious.
It's overrated though, right?
I mean, logic not XOR, the description of that film would be the output is a value of 1 if none or an even number of inputs are 1.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I can hear Vin Diesel saying those very words.
It's just gripping. I'll never remember that. Okay, so anyways, if you find anything like that just doesn't make sense to you off the top of your head, or you aren't quite familiar with the rest of them, take a look through the help file. Okay. So in this class, we're going to be using a lot of control functions. In fact, that's the way that we're going to be completing all of our exercises. The other two classes, intermediate, will be using block controller, and advanced will be using Lua, but we are focusing in on the control functions in this class.
You know, control components have their place. When you wire one control to another control and it's just like a single wire, it's really clear and obvious what's happening there. With the block controller and the Lua script, you got to open up a code and you got to dig through that code in order to understand what's going on. Using control functions like this is incredibly useful because you can just look at the design and understand how the things are connected to each other. So there's a reason to use control functions in some place and maybe scripting in another place. Here you're going through the basics of what these wires do and why you would use them. Don't discount them. They may seem simple at times, but there's a good time for them.